I will never forget the sound of the wrapping paper tearing. It was the only thing anyone could hear. No entertainment, no joy, just that quiet crinkle as my child Leila Monroe carefully unwrapped her present. Her tiny fingers tugged at the corners like it was the most precious thing in the world. For a fleeting moment, she actually smiled, that soft, hopeful kind of smile kids get when they think magic might still be real. But when she opened the container, her whole face shifted. Confusion first, then a flicker of something deeper. Hurt, maybe. Her little frame stiffened and she glanced at me. The container was empty. I saw it before she even said a word, just a plain package bottom. No wrapping material, no plaything, not even a message, just nothing. I blinked, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Was it a mistake? Did something fall out? Maybe someone forgot to pack it, but before I could open my mouth, I heard him, my dad, David Carter. He let out this sharp chuckle, short and cold like a bark in season. He sat back in his armchair, arms folded, and said, "Kids like her shouldn't expect anything. The world's got enough leeches already." My heart dropped. Leila froze. Her hands were still in the container, as if maybe she just hadn't seen the present yet, like it was hiding under the flaps or tucked in the corner. But there was nothing. I felt the heat rush up my chest. My hands trembled where they rested on my lap. I wanted to say something, anything, but the words caught in my throat like splinters. Then Sandra, my sister, snorted and muttered, "She's just like her mother, always expecting handouts." Worthless. My jaw clenched. I could feel the muscles in my face tightening, the burn behind my eyes threatening to spill over. I forced myself to look at Leila. She wasn't crying. Not yet, but her lips were pressed tight and her chin trembled the way it does right before it breaks. Her eyes, those big, soft eyes, were filling with tears she was too proud to let fall. In that moment, the air thickened with disappointment. The scent of rain lingered outside, a stark contrast to the storm brewing within our family. Could love survive in a world filled with silence and dispassion? Would Leila ever find the acceptance she so desperately craved? As I sat there, the weight of my dad's cynicism and my sister's harsh words hung heavy in the room, suffocating the flicker of hope that still danced in Leila's innocent heart. She looked at me again, a question hanging in the air. Should she pretend the pain wasn't there? In that moment, I felt a wave of self-loathing crash over me. I regretted bringing her into this, hoping, and maybe foolishly, for a normal Christmas, wishing my dad could be someone different. I wanted them to see the radiant, kind, creative girl Leila Monroe was and embrace her like I did. But to them, she was just an extension of my failures, a living reminder of my divorce and the chaos I had made of my life. Silence filled the room, punctuated only by the hum of the heater and the relentless ticking of the grandfather clock. Each tick felt louder, echoing the absurdity of the situation, as if counting down to a confrontation we weren't ready for. Leila glanced at the empty container again, her fingers tracing the edges. With trembling hands, she folded the flaps shut, tears threatening but refusing to fall. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she said, "I got you a present, too, Grandpa." Everyone turned and my heart sank. My dad, David Carter, looked up with that infuriating smirk that masked his disdain. "Oh yeah?" he scoffed, half laughing. "This should be good." But Leila didn't flinch. She rooted around in her coat pocket and revealed a small piece of paper, folded with an almost childlike care that made my chest ache. She stepped forward, holding it out with both hands, a fragile bridge between us, daring to share her heart. At that moment, I knew this wasn't just a casual exchange. Something monumental was about to unfold. I hadn't stepped into this room for Christmas in over 2 years. Not since the divorce, not since the shame wrapped itself around my heart like a vice, not since everything I'd tried to piece together came crashing down. Leila had asked about her grandpa weeks before, a hesitant innocence laced in her words. "Mom, do I have a grandpa?" Her question was an unspoken plea for connection, for the magic of Christmas we'd missed, vivid pajamas, and chaotic family gatherings. So I said yes, even against my better judgment. I let her dream of what could be. What had I really expected? As I watched Leila prepare to confront the very walls I'd fought to shield her from, I braced myself for the fallout, feeling the electric tension thickening in the air. Would love survive here, in a space so stuffed with bitterness? As Leila Monroe stood in the doorway, a familiar chill bit at her. Disappointment, sharp as ice, washed over her. She hoped, just maybe, that this time could be different. But as she took a breath, the moment settled like a heavy fog. The house loomed before her, still perfect, still cold, far from inviting. Her mother greeted them with well-practiced plastic politeness, a quick hug for Leila, a soft pat on Leila's head, but her eyes lingered too long on the scuffed boots Leila wore, assessing, measuring her worth like an item on display. "Hey," Sandra muttered, barely looking up from her phone as they entered. Leila felt her stomach knot with unease. Then there was David Carter, her dad, slouched in his usual chair, whiskey glass in hand, remote in the other. He didn't stand, just nodded, that infuriating smirk on his face. "Didn't think you'd actually show up." His words dripped disdain. "Hi, Grandpa," Leila whispered, her small voice a tentative experiment. For an instant, she looked hopeful. But all she got in return was a grunt. Lila's heart ached, her excitement twisted into something jagged. She'd tried so hard to bring joy, creating little drawings, each one colored with care and tucked into envelopes labeled just right. She even asked how to spell Sandra's name, her innocence shining in the preparation. But did they see it? Did they even care? She thought maybe, just maybe, this visit could be the start of something. Yet the invisible weight settled back on her shoulders, a reminder that love was buried somewhere deep beneath layers of bitterness and anger. As she stood there, the room thick with silence, her hope felt fragile, like glass ready to shatter. But then, amid the tension, a flicker caught her eye. A forgotten family photo in the corner revealed a younger David, laughing with a child who made her heart race, someone who looked just like her. The warmth of that moment washed over her, igniting a spark of hope. If David had once known love, could she awaken it? Would she uncover the heart still hidden beneath his cold exterior? I scraped together every cent I could find, from tips and extra shifts to buy her one nice outfit. A little present to open, and just enough gas to get us there. That morning, while tying her scarf, she looked up at me with those big, hopeful eyes and asked, "Do you think they'll like my drawings?" I forced a smile and said, "Sweetheart, they're going to love them." But inside, dread twisted in my stomach. I was bringing her into a house where kindness was currency you had to earn, where smiles came with conditions and love felt like a fading echo. Still, I put on a brave face. I told myself this day was about Leila, not me. I needed to keep my chin up, act like everything was fine. But as I watched her heart slowly break over something as cruel as an empty present container, reality hit me. They hadn't changed, and I wasn't sure they ever would. Leila handed out her little envelopes like they were treasures. She moved through the room so gently, afraid to disrupt a single thing. Each envelope bore a name in her careful, blocky handwriting. Gifts of love wrapped in innocence. First, she approached my mother, then Sandra, even my brother Matt, who had barely spoken since we walked in. When she reached David Carter, she hesitated, just long enough for my breath to catch. But her smile broke through the tension, and she chirped, "Merry Christmas, Grandpa." He didn't lift his gaze from the television, just held out his hand, like she was handing him a bill, instead of offering a piece of herself. Leila returned to the couch next to me, her face still illuminated by hope. She had no idea how icy the atmosphere had become. Then David picked up a large present from beneath the tree, wrapped in pristine silver paper, topped with a red bow, too neatly packaged. He grunted and held it out toward Leila. Her eyes lit up. For me? But she looked to me first, seeking approval. I nodded, even as a knot twisted in my gut. She shuffled to the floor, pulling the container into her lap. The room buzzed with an eerie silence, tension wrapping around us like a thick fog. Just as Leila beamed with joy, David's dismissive scoff sliced through the air. The moment came crashing down. Her efforts were invisible, lost among the wall of indifference surrounding us. The camera zoomed in on Lila's face, capturing the flicker of confusion and hurt as the truth settled in. Her family's love was as conditional as she had feared, a mirror reflecting the generational wounds that tied us all together. She was left to grapple with the painful reality of emotional disconnection, yearning for warmth that never came. Would she ever find the love hidden beneath David's cold exterior? Leila Monroe's small hands glided over the paper, treating it like a treasure. Each wrinkle, each tear was sacred. I watched, holding my breath as she savored every moment, the careful lifting of edges, the gentle unfolding. This was a memory she wanted to keep. And then she lifted the lid. I could see it. The moment her world tilted. Confusion washed over her face, her innocent brows furrowing as she peered inside. Leila reached in, her tiny fingers hoping to discover something, anything. But the container was empty. A blank slate where dreams should have been. David Carter let out a cruel chuckle, slicing through the room like a knife. "What? You were expecting something real," he sneered. "The world doesn't give you gifts just for showing up, kid." My heart sank as Leila blinked, her joy evaporating in the stony silence. Then Sandra jumped in, ready to twist the knife deeper. Well, she's just like her mom, always expecting handouts. It's no surprise. I could feel the punch in my chest, the urge to stand up for Leila roaring within me. "Sandra, don't," I warned, my voice trembling under years of built-up disdain. But Leila was frozen now, the empty container resting in her lap, exposed to the world, exposed to them. She glanced around, realizing the atmosphere had turned heavy, suffocating. I hated them for making her feel less than, for mirroring their bitterness back at her. They laughed, treating her spirit like a punchline, and I was silent, desperate to shield her, but paralyzed by the weight of my own fear. She continued to stare at the container, as if willing it to fill itself. Or maybe she believed love would come crawling back if she waited long enough. Inside, I screamed, "Say something, stand up, defend her." But I didn't want to create chaos, especially not for her. That's the lesson you learn in families like this. You freeze when the world turns cruel. You smile with clenched teeth, and I'd done it for so long it felt normal. But Leila was only 7. She didn't have that armor yet, didn't know how to absorb pain. And then, with those big, shimmering eyes full of uncertainty, she looked at David Carter. Her voice emerged, quiet, barely a whisper, but it echoed through the suffocating silence. "Why don't you love me?" What would happen next? Would she crumble under the weight of their indifference, or would something ignite within her? The room held its breath, and so did I. His jaw slackened like he'd just stepped out of a time warp. The air crackled with anticipation. "What is it?" Sandra shot out, impatience weaving through her tone. But David Carter didn't respond. He just stared blankly, lost in whatever world was unfolding before him. Leila Monroe stood frozen, hands clasped in front of her, her gaze locked onto David as if he were some ancient riddle she was desperate to solve. I quietly crossed the room, the tension feeling taut beneath my skin. I took my place beside Leila, letting my hand rest gently on her back. She didn't flinch. Her focus was unwavering, fixated on David, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was a shadow of the man I'd known. Not angry, not smug, just still. He delicately folded the aged paper, an act so tentative it felt sacred, placing it on the table next to him. Then he stood, the atmosphere pulsing with unspoken words. No one knew what to do. He walked out, silence swallowing the space he vacated. His footsteps echoed down the hallway, stark against the quiet. A door creaked shut, but there was no slam, no angry shout, just a fading absence that hung in the air. I turned back to Leila. "Did I do something wrong?" she asked, her voice so soft it could barely breach the weight of the moment. I knelt beside her, wrapping my arms around her fragile frame. "No, sweetheart, you did something brave." Sandra's disapproving mumble drifted past like an unwelcome breeze, but I barely registered it. Leila had reached out to David in a way none of us could. She didn't lash out, didn't scream, didn't run away. Instead, she offered him a present, an echo of the humanity he'd buried deep beneath bitterness. And I sensed that her innocence, stark against his hardened shell, unnerved him more than anything. The entire evening felt off-kilter without David. He didn't return, not even when my mother called out with the artificial sweetness she reserved for pretend happy moments. Leila didn't mention him again. She quietly played with ribbon from her other gifts, folding wrapping paper scraps like it was just another night. But I could see it in her eyes. Her thoughts were drifting far from that room, into the depths of a moment still unfolding. Could a simple piece of paper really change everything? What had it cost her to share that part of herself? Every now and then, Leila Monroe's eyes drifted toward the hallway where David Carter had vanished, as if she were waiting for something to change. But nothing did. Not that day. We left early the next morning. I told everyone we had plans back in the city, but the truth was, I couldn't stand another moment of pretending. Sandra didn't even bother to say goodbye. My mother handed me a foil-covered plate of leftover ham, her voice dripping with forced cheer as she told me to drive safe. No one mentioned what had happened. No one asked how Leila was doing, and that silence cut deeper than any words. The ride home was a quiet storm. Leila stared out the window, watching the snowflakes blur past the trees, each one a tiny world of its own. I reached over and held her hand. She squeezed back, a small gesture that felt like a lifeline. I didn't bring up the drawing. I didn't want to unravel whatever magic had sparked in that moment with David. But my mind raced. What had she drawn that made my dad, the man who once called me too soft for crying at a movie, turn pale and leave without a word? 4 days later, everything changed. A small, unmarked container appeared on our porch. No return address, just Lila's name scrawled in careful block letters across the top. She opened it slowly, as if afraid to hope. Inside was a tiny entertainment container, old-fashioned and wooden, with hand-carved edges and delicate roses painted around the lid. It played "Somewhere Over the Rainbow" when she turned the crank. And there was a message, just one line, handwritten in a shaky, unfamiliar script. To the bravest girl I know. Thank you for remembering her. No signature, but we didn't need one. Leila clutched the container to her chest like it was made of gold. She didn't say anything at first, she just held it and smiled, a light breaking through the clouds of our recent past. I sat down next to her on the floor, my heart racing with curiosity. "Leila, what did you draw for Grandpa?" She looked up at me, her voice soft and steady. It was a picture of him holding hands with Grandma and me. In that moment, everything shifted. The weight of disappointment began to lift, replaced by a flicker of understanding. Could a simple drawing really bridge the chasm between us? What had it cost her to share that part of herself? I told him I hope he smiles again one day, remembering how she made him chuckle. My throat tightened, silence fell, heavy and thick. That was it. The part of him I thought was lost, gone forever. The man who once shared joy, who laughed freely, had been buried by grief. Yet Ka saw through that, reaching him with a spark of something he thought was long forgotten. Not pity, not guilt, but hope. She didn't try to fix him. Instead, she offered a reminder of the man worth remembering. In return, he gave her something too. Not love, not forgiveness, but a beginning, and sometimes that's enough. The entertainment container now rests on Lila's nightstand. Each night she winds it up, though it isn't always to listen. Sometimes she simply holds it, cherishing its solid weight. Like a child clinging to a beloved stuffed animal, even after outgrowing it. Leila hasn't spoken much about that day since. Yet, every so often she'll mention Grandma, the one she never knew but describes as if she's still here, living on in the stories I've shared and the quiet spaces left behind. Maybe she feels her presence too. David never called, never sent a message. No apologies, no explanations. That's just not who he is. Maybe it never will be. But a week after the entertainment container arrived, something unexpected happened. I found a letter on my doorstep. Not addressed to Leila, this one was for me. Just 3 lines, scribbled in that same shaky handwriting. I was wrong about you. She's a good kid. I hope you're doing okay. No name, but I knew. For reasons I can't quite explain, tears slipped down my cheeks. Not because it fixed everything, not because it mended the years of silence or the hurtful way he used to look right through me, like I was just a disappointment with a name tag, but because, for once, it felt like he saw me. And even more than that, he saw Leila. As the room fell silent, Lila's heart raced, anxiety dancing in the air like a storm brewing. David's eyes, once warm, now mirrored a chilling void. The entertainment container's soft melody played in the background, a haunting echo of everything we lost. Lila's fingers trembled around the container, her mind a whirlwind. Would David ever let go of his bitterness? Could she break the walls he built? The tension crackled, leaving everyone on the edge, yearning for resolution. He saw it, what I've always known. Leila Monroe is special. She has this way of peeling back the coldness in a room, revealing warmth even when people don't deserve it. She's quiet, never demanding attention, yet somehow she changes everything. She changed David Carter, if only a little. Enough to crack open a door he'd shut tight. Enough for a man who believed in toughness to pause and listen to a little girl's drawing come to life. People often ask me why I returned that Christmas, why I let them come near her, or why I didn't protect her better. The truth stings. I thought I was protecting her. I thought distancing her from their bitterness would keep her heart safe. I didn't talk about them, didn't visit, but Leila didn't need protection. She needed the truth. She needed to face the world, beautiful yet cruel, broken yet hopeful, all tangled in one messy reality. Instead of getting lost in it, she chose to light it up. She didn't seek revenge. No apologies were needed. She just wanted to give a present. A present that did what I couldn't do in 30 years. It opened a door, if only a crack. Just enough for a message to slip through, for a song to play softly in the silence, for an old man to remember a part of himself he thought was gone. Leila reminded me that day that kindness can be radical, that whispers sometimes carry more weight than screams. When we choose love, even when it hurts or feels unreturned, we create something lasting. A moment, a shift, a present. A week later, when the rain thrummed against the window, I felt the weight of her truth settle in. Tears glistened in my eyes, not because everything was fixed, but because, just for an instant, I sensed that warmth filling the void David left behind. Would he ever let go of his bitterness? Could she break through the walls he built so high? Hope crackled in the air. The entertainment container rested quietly on Lila's nightstand, reminding us of the magic waiting just beyond the shadows. If this story resonated, consider sharing it with someone in your life. You never know what doors it might unlock.